To imagine I'd find a series akin to Worlds and Harem mixed with Prison School. It has a bit of a death game element, but a whole lot of nasty? I think I'm in heaven. What's up, you guys? Chase the Dark Sage here, and today we are back with another video. And in today's video, we'll be talking about Destiny Lovers. Story by Kazutaka and artwork, and I do mean artwork, by Kai Tomohiro. This series is about the end of the world with only virgin men being alive while the women populace is still living. 6 young men are captured and tortured into giving up their virginities to save the world, but also end their own life in the process. Now fellas, be real with me. If she was coming on to you, but you know your life was gonna end if you did the deed, what you doing?
All of us are going to die. Every one of us.
It's funny to have another end of the world nasty man type of manga like Worlds and Harem in the collection. I gotta say that I'm actually kind of digging these stories. It's something about men being the saviors of mankind, but not being able to give into their carnal nature is just something that really entertains me. I'm probably a masochist, aren't I? Now, I've talked plenty about Worlds and Harem on the channel, but I've only talked about Destiny Lovers once, so it's time to fix that. It's time to add another nasty man title to the collection, fellas, because, well, with this piece of literature right here, it has an alright narrative, but it has some peak artwork. This goes without being said, but please be 18 when actually indulging in these type of series because, well, there is an age requirement when looking at such fine artwork. And for nasty man purposes, I will be blurring out some panels I show to not get taken out by YouTube. The uncensored version of this review will be going up on the Patreon though, so that doesn't mean all panels will be censored, but whenever I need to emphasize certain points, those panels will be censored on YouTube. Like this one right here. I bet you wish you was on the Patreon now, huh? But before we actually get into the video, make sure you check out the Nasty Man playlist on the channel. That way you can see other Nasty Man recommendations and my thoughts on other Nasty Man titles that you might be wanting to peruse a bit and put in your collection as well. And don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button if you do like this type of content, and follow me on all my other social media platforms. All my links will be in the description down below. So, let's go ahead and talk about the plot of Destiny Lovers. We are first introduced to our main character, Kosuke Fujishiro, who has been mysteriously kidnapped and held captive in an unknown facility. He's woken up and greeted by a young perverse lady looking to have some intimate extracurricular activities with him. Well, ain't he just a lucky bastard? We soon come to find out that he's a virgin and has promised his first time with his old childhood friend, Sayaka-chan. Aw, that's so sweet. Is what I would say if I wasn't a nasty man. What? Come on, man, what are we doing? Talk about fumbling the bag. Once this mysterious woman fails her attempts at wooing Fujishiro, she escorts him into a cell with 5 other guys who we don't know. All 6 of the captured men then come to the realization that they've been probably kidnapped for having one thing in common. They're all virgins. Ha! That couldn't be me. Why y'all still looking at me? After coming to this conclusion, they soon try to find a way to escape, but they come across 2 things. First off, the warden of this facility turns out to be Sayaka-chan, Fujishiro's childhood friend he made a promise to. Shocking, I know. And the second thing is that they see a guy get killed by the women that run this facility. Now this is what brought me in a bit because that's when I knew that something mysterious was happening. The guys group back up in their cell and realize that they still haven't been killed because of them having their virginities, and it's a valuable asset in some kind of way. But here's the kicker, and they knew exactly where to place this in the physical volume when I was reading it. At the end of chapter 9, we get a glimpse into what the world looks like outside of the facility, and it is destroyed with random monsters roaming around. Nah. You not stopping it right there. Now you got me invested. And this is when I knew that I was sucked into the series. It's the men against the women in this facility on giving up their virginities. Among these trials/games, sex games, and with Sayaka-chan helping Fujishiro, the guys must team up and strategize to hold out and stay abstinent while the women do everything they can to lead them on and make them horny enough to make them have sex. And when I tell you they do everything, I mean everything.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Will the guys make it out with their virginity intact? Or will they be forced to give it up and die? And that's all I want to give you guys without any spoilers. I will say that the plot was very interesting based off of what we got in the mystery aspect of the first 9 chapters and why their virginity was so important and what happened to the world. Now this is a Nasty Man title and I'm not looking for the most craziest plot line or the most in-depth character analysis because, well, from this genre, I'm kind of used to the more episodic stuff. As long as the plot gets me from point A to point B, I'm good. Now, what is a Nasty Man series without its fair share of artwork? This manga right here has so much artwork jam-packed into it that I almost became cross-eyed because I had to look at both pages at once. The artists for this had to have known what they were doing with this because I was feasting with each read. I couldn't go a chapter without some cheekage or chesticles thrown in my face. And I'm not complaining about that. And every time it was thrown in my face, I was like,
I'ma eat it. Ah!
Now, per usual, they don't show the super heavy stuff like glizzies or the full-on kitty cat, but there's enough, and I do mean enough, artwork to fulfill your needs. I meant reads. Reads. But let's talk about the normal artwork for this series. It's alright and generally gets the point across. I'm not too focused on reading about this artwork when I have this artwork to be looking at. Also, the paneling was alright as well. I could definitely make out what was happening on each page. What? Oh, my bad. I was just imagining myself on these pages. Now, there are plenty of characters in this series, and for me to go over every single one would be a pain, so I'm going to give you the initial characters we're given and their character archetypes that they represent. Kosuke Fujishiro is our noble MC. I actually like Fujishiro until towards the end of the series. Sayaka-chan, the warden and childhood friend of Fujishiro. Baddie. We also have Fujishiro's other cellmates who include Iruba Kuzuchika, the punk jock type, Tsukikawa Kiyoshi, the germaphobe loner, Kazamatsuri Shunta, the shy/frail timid type, Ogawara Masaki, the fat slob, and lastly an unknown cell member we don't have much info on at the beginning of this manga. These characters don't do anything special but heavily remind me of the crew from Prison School. We also have some baddies, but you might not remember their names since they're mostly just there to be horny cops and do their job. They are gas waifu material. Now that we got the characters out of the way, let's talk about the setting. There really isn't one. We do get a glimpse of the outside world, but for the most part, we're stuck in the cell with the characters contemplating and strategizing how to get out for the most part. The setting does change later on, but I'd have to get into spoiler territory to talk about that. But I did like to change the setting later on. Overall, these characters do a fine job, and there is one specific character we are introduced to later on that I hated, and they were just a slime ball. Like I said earlier, the cast and crew do enough to please me. As usual with a Nasty Man series, I don't need the deepest character analysis or the most thought-provoking, plot-driven series. I just need some nasty activities, and depending on the series, I just need for the plot to get me from one point to another. Now, Destiny Lovers won't wow you with its writing. It's simplistic. It has some character growth, plenty of funny moments, but it's very nasty. The ecchi moments are plentiful within this manga, and every time I was flipping the page, all I could do was... The ecchi/nasty moments also added towards the stakes of the series, seeing as these guys could not be tempted with the act of having sex with any of these girls or else, well, they'll be killed. A very interesting dynamic where usually we see the guys in these series not be able to have sex for other nonsensical reasons, but in this manga, it makes perfect sense. I was wondering how they were going to keep this up throughout the whole manga, but we do get additional characters and a change of setting over time, which added a nice change of pace with the same, if not greater stakes. In fact, during the halfway point, they're met with an even bigger problem on top of their previous problems that I didn't see coming, but I was super stoked for. But sadly, all things must come to an end. Now, there's a decision made in the second half of the series that could be divisive. I definitely did not see this coming at all, and it came out of the blue. I'm not gonna say what it is, but if you read the series, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not really sure how to exactly feel about it. If it was built up towards across the series, I'd have no problem with it. But to make this type of choice randomly and in the last quarter of the manga kind of seems a bit out of left field and not in a good way. And when they tried to expound on the point later on, I just wasn't feeling it. Only because it came out of nowhere and it raised more questions than it did answers. And since we're talking about things in the last quarter of the series, the ending. That ending was trash. Basuda. Throw it in a recycle bin and delete it forever. With the new element I just mentioned, it focuses almost a volume's worth of content on it instead of the actual plot. I am appalled. All the manga had to do was focus on the plot, finish it, and that's it. But no, instead of focusing on the plot, the mangaka decides to take up the last 6 chapters to have a 5-chapter sex scene and 1 chapter to wrap up the story instead. You don't know how angry this made me. Now, is this a Nasty Man series? Of course, but the author sacrifices finishing out the story for a sex scene that doesn't even matter in the long run of things. And the series ends on a huge cliffhanger. I'm gonna need a drink after this video. The writing in the last quarter of the series took a turn for the worse, and it's sad to see because I loved every aspect before it. Like I said earlier, I don't need my Nasty Man series to be the most complex, but at least keep the story consistent and good like it was before. It just felt like the author gave up on the ending and just tried to fan service their way out of it. And yes, it's that bad. To bring this review to a close, I thoroughly enjoyed this manga up until the last quarter of it. I can't deny the good fun that I had with this series at the beginning and the middle that kept me wanting to read more. Dare I say that this manga kept me coming back for more?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I hear it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up with this section. Sadly, some choices made towards the end and the ending itself knocked it down a few grades because they were just blatantly bad towards the narrative and what we had gotten previously. I won't lie though, the nasty escapades? I was completely here for. The characters were cool, the women were baddies, and the stakes were just so great. This series really brought me back to my times of watching Prison School and reading Worlds and Harem. So for a Nasty Man series to do that, I gotta commend it. So I have to give it 2 ratings. And Destiny Lovers, from a narrative perspective, I have to give it a 4 out of 10. But on the Nasty Man scale, this is a certified Nasty Man manga.
I'ma eat it.
Back in it, baby, just staying in town. I'm on the edge, I ain't coming down. I get too high, I'm afraid of the ground. I'm young and I'm paid to play with these sounds. Ignoring the call, she shutting that gown. Started at the top and I'm taking it down off the champagne. Took a break from the brown on the red page. I've been giving it brown. Shawty been solid some time now. I'm a line for the wine, dine, and I'm with it. Look where we started and look where we at. I can see where we headed, but I can't see me finish. 3 years ago, I was down on my last. Was stuck at the crib, I couldn't get out of my bed. Then I realized it's all in my head, and I can't go back to the past, yeah. Except now I'm moving, put all